Dave Sargent, because I know that you have been at a pro-Trump rally yesterday.
No, I wasn't actually.
Oh, okay.
No,
But you're supporting him.
We had an event in Parliament
Right.
with Nigel Farage, which was basically saying that this is diplomatic business as usual. This guy, whether you agree with him on domestic policy or not, has been elected by tens of millions of his own people, and he is the head of state of a very valued ally. And at a time following Brexit, where we need to be making kind of bipartisan trade deals, we need to welcome Donald Trump, as we would any democratically elected leader.
Well, no, I mean, I think I really worry about this idea of we should negotiate because they're an ally, because I think what we should put before kind of economics of a trade deal is basic human rights, which he disregards. I mean, he's known to be transphobe, misogynist, he violates women, he's an Islamophobe, and I think by saying we should really just talk to him because economically it's important. We're putting economics before basic human rights, and that is more important. And I mean, the same with like Hitler back in the day. He's not someone to be negotiated with.
I think there are three main reasons why you'll see hundreds of thousands of people, and I think we speak for the majority of British people, in rejecting Donald Trump, not just as a person and as disgraceful as he is as a person, but actually the policies that he represents. I mean, of course he's normalised racism, as we've heard. He's put children in cages, separated families, he's normalised sexual violence, he's attacked the poor and most vulnerable. He's used the office of the United States President to punch down on those most vulnerable. But it's also the policies that he's promoting here. I mean, he's coming in, he's talking about an economic policy and trade deals where actually would threaten our environmental standards, open up our food safety from GM and chlorinated chicken. It puts corporate power at the centre of big business and rather than the interests of people. He's even talked about that he wants the NHS to be opened up for American corporations to profit from.
Well, let Charlie respond to that. Let's have a conversation.
Any president who's going to look after his own nation is going to want to trade. And a lot of this stuff of misogynist and bigot and what have you, I mean, these are just mamby-pamby words where they're just thrown out.
They don't affect you.
They may be to you,
no,
but they actually have a real consequence to people, right? No, they have a real consequence. You can't just say they're namby-pamby words. They have a real consequence in violence. They have a real
Let Charlie Wolf respond, and then we need to get down to some more
contestants. Black unemployment is at its lowest in history. All right? The economy is booming, where a strong economy means people get to work and they get to be self-fulfilling, they get to be...
It was a really interesting point you raised, and if I could just jump in, is that most Brits don't support Donald Trump. I actually saw a poll from YouGov that said 45% want to welcome him, 39% opposed. And what the BBC should really be doing is stepping outside London, which is not representative of this nation, and going up to the north, going to Essex, going to the southwest. Obviously it might mean you're back later than 5 PM, but that's what you should probably be trying to do.
We clearly do that all the time. But to be fair, we can't ignore tens of thousands of people on the streets.
All I've seen is you interview people in London who are from London.
I'm from the north, and we are protesting in our hundreds as well.
We're in London because of the event that's happening today.
I think we should avoid distraction.
Fire for a moment, because we're going to have to go downstairs. Our reporter Chichi Azundu is down, right downstairs where some protesters are gathering. Chi.
Indeed, we are here amongst where hundreds of people are starting to gather as part of the Bring the Noise March, which is the Women's March. Like you said, more than 35 charities have gathered together to protest against Donald Trump in the UK. I have organisers Dr. Shola and Huda with me. Why did you feel it was important to organise this march?
Well, quoting Martin Luther King, it's a glorious opportunity for the people of the United Kingdom to stand in solidarity against what we clearly see as a divisive, misogynistic, inhumane and discriminatory policies of the Trump administration. And it's an opportunity for us to celebrate the very strength of the diversity that we represent, which transcends ethnicity, race, gender, and all the protected characteristics out there. So today is a day where people show up, speak up, and stand up.
Huda, you have talked about you talking to your son about Trump's policies. What did you speak to him about?
I said to him today, he can't be here today because he's at school, but I did ask him how does Trump make him feel, and he was very angry as a young child. He was only 10, and he said, "Mummy, I feel like dumb people can get into power and start wars for no reason. So this is a sign to say, no war, we're not interested in your war against children, we're not interested in your war against women, and we're certainly not interested in your war against all other non-white people. So that's why we're here today, to kind of say, not on our watch."
And what specifically are you protesting against? What has Trump said or done in the past that has offended this group. So
now, bearing in mind that we are a platform of many voices and we have over 35 organizations, human rights and charities here, there are voices and campaigns across the board represented here. So what we are standing up against is the political rhetoric of hate, bigotry, and divisiveness. And we're saying that this is unacceptable. We're saying that it is time for the Trump-Pence administration to put an end to the moral depravity and ignorance that comes out of its policies.
And Huda, like, we can just hear some noise being made. How is this march going to be kicked off?
Well, we're going to be sung by an opera that we're going to serenade us down the street. We're going to have drums, we're going to have pots and pans, and we're asking everyone to bring the noise by banging on their pots and pans.
And what is the significance of the pots and pans?
Well, it's really started when South America, where women protesting men and the administrations of their governments by bringing pots and pans. That's what they had at their disposal. So we're using our domesticity and our sign of womanhood and the ways in which we have been oppressed to fight the oppressor.
Yeah. Both, thank you very much. So this march has been organised over a year and a half. Chloe, back to you in the studio, and hopefully you'll get to see the hundreds of people that are starting to gather here outside in main central London.
Gee, I'm up on the roof. I can see you if I look over the back. I'm getting a bit of a suntan here, getting outside the studio, always nice. And we are hearing that President Trump has, in the last few moments, arrived at Chequers. Of course, he's having that meeting with the Prime Minister, Theresa May, at her country retreat. We can cross over to our political guru, Norman Smith, who is there. Norman, tell us about that arrival.
Well, he arrived in a sort of fleet of huge helicopters in the last few minutes in the sort of sun-kissed Buckinghamshire countryside. I don't imagine that there's going to be much sunlight and laughter amongst Team May, though, because Mrs May is now facing a really difficult, awkward, crunch news conference with the Donald in an hour or so's time, following on from his criticism of Mrs May, in effect accusing her of not really pursuing the sort of Brexit people wanted, mishandling the negotiations, not being tough enough, also saying, you know, you're not going to get a trade deal if this is a sort of Brexit that you're trying to negotiate, and then going out of his way to praise, again, Boris Johnson. And I suppose the question for Theresa May is, does she go toe-to-toe with the president over Brexit? Does she actually try to take him on? Now, that doesn't really fit in with her style, and you think it would be high risk indeed to challenge the president in that sort of arena, because that's sort of meat and drink to him. He loves that sort of combative public occasion, so that is very high risk indeed. The other option is the more sort of softly, more muted counter-arguments put in a rather restrained manner. And I imagine that's what Theresa May will go for. But it matters because Donald Trump has directly challenged her whole approach to Brexit. He would have emboldened the Brexiteers by basically giving them the thumbs up. And also, he's actually dented her leadership because his comments really, they show a certain disregard for Theresa May, as if he almost doesn't really care about her difficulties. And so she has to reassert herself. So an absolutely fascinating news conference looming.
And Norman Smith, I know that you will be there for the BBC News Channel throughout the day, bringing us updates on that meeting between the Prime Minister and the US President Donald Trump. Well, here up on the roof, I'm joined by some more protesters who are going to be out on the streets a little bit later on here in London. Introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Olivia Hunt. I'm an American high school student here in London. My name's Brianna Clatta, and I am a Canadian who's also a student here in London. My name's Shanti. My name's Georgia. And we're from London.
And I'm Connie Ristic, and I'm also a Londoner, but 20 years only. I'm Canadian originally.
So explain to us, and speak up a bit, because it's quite loud down there with the traffic noise of central London. Tell me first of all why you guys decided to come out today and protest.
We're here because we believe in women's rights and for them to be equal with men. We think we still see sexism in everyday life, and we're from independent girls' school, so it's quite important to us to improve it.
And we think on this day, whatever you think about Donald Trump's politics, he still, as a person, does represent a particular view about women and girls. And we're here to sort of remind people, I guess, that women have full lives, and we're happy to participate.
Lots of people have been getting in touch with us throughout the morning, our viewers telling us how they feel about this visit. Lots of people supporting it. Let me put one to you, maybe you'd like to respond to this. Ian said on email, Trump is just being honest. If our politicians could answer questions in a straight and honest manner, then more people would bother to vote. What would you say to that?
Well, I don't think Trump answers on questions in a straight and honest manner. I think we've seen constantly through his political rallies the amount of times that he lies. And I think the politics that he represents, the democracy that he represents, is built on this foundation of nationalism and hate. And we've seen that like the Charlottesville March and such. So I don't think he's a politician who would really represent what we want politics to be. So,
why are you taking to the streets today?
I think it's important to have our message heard. I think it's important to stand up and do something when things are wrong, you know. And if you look back at history, these protests do work. And so I think it's important to participate.
Interesting that you say they do work. What would be working? What would be a good outcome for the protesters today?
I think just being heard. I think being heard. I don't necessarily think it will change him, but I hope that it changes other people's minds, and collectively we can continue